From Florida's Space Coast, this is Your Career.
Welcome to Your Career. I am Debbie Featherston, your host, and with me today is Amanda Hanks. And Amanda, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come in and talk to us about engineering. You know, when you look at the field of engineering, it is so broad. Give the viewers an idea of the range of...
So, you know, it's still that misconception. When I go into elementary schools, starting usually about third grade, I'll go in for career day, and they have the police officer and the fireman, and they're very glamorous, and I talk about engineering, and I say, what does an engineer do? 9 times out of 10, it's a little boy who raises hands and says, do you drive a train? You know, there's still, and I don't know if it's from Thomas the Train, you know, they're raised on that as young, or Bob the Builder, but they really don't understand. And even in middle school, they grasp a little bit about, okay, well, if you design a car, that's kind of an engineer, or an airplane.
Yeah.
They do not realize that we dabble in everything. Pretty much anything that needs to be innovated with a design, integrated into our lives to make it easier. Phones, their faces light up when I talk about, oh, what about your phone? Does anybody use an iPad? Does anybody play a video game? You know, who rides a bicycle? So definitely awareness that it's not just that old, boring train conductor. You know, engineering is a lot bigger than that.
Oh yeah, designing toys, getting into robotics.
Exactly.
You know, you have civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering.
Well, even
huge,
clothing
right?
now.
Oh, clothing.
So I mean, we're you know, looking at, you know, why aren't certain people interested in engineering? You know, now we're looking at LEDs and integrating LEDs into clothing, you know, to kind of bring in some of the girls that are thinking fashion, but they still have a math background. You know, there's all types of different things that we can excite them with it. So yes, I'm impassioned, very passionate about exciting people about the possibilities. Yes.
Yeah, I think about I think about the different industries. You know, from petroleum to, you've talked about, you know, consumer electronics to, you know,
so
aerospace.
we teach one of the facets of engineering is robotics, and that is something that Lego really has a market on, and I'm passionate about robotics right now. I think it's up and coming, and it's something that Lego has adapted to middle school and high school students. Worldwide competitions, you know, it's an exciting thing because they can actually see when they program or build a robot, they see what happens. And that interfaced, we did a homeschool robotic league in Vero Beach, and the CVS distribution for the East Coast happens to be in Vero Beach. This facility is as big as a football field, totally driven with robotics.
Wow.
So we were able to take the robotics group, you know, after we had done our little robotics demonstration, how does this robot walk down here to catch something? Then they actually got to go into the CVS distribution facility, and they gave them a tour of exactly how the robot picks up a bottle, puts it in a bucket, uses color sensors, everything that we had been talking about in class, they saw in real life, all the way to the robot that puts it in the box and the person packages it. And they were just, it invigorated them and excited them that, okay, now I know why I have to learn that math to make that robot go that far, because if he doesn't go exactly that far, he's gonna drop the bottle and it's not gonna make the box. So they really, I think it's a great compliment when you can show practical applications of what anybody's learning.
Yeah,
no matter how
that's
old you are.
fascinating. And really what you're alluding to here that our viewers don't have a sense of is they don't realize that you're also really heavily involved in teaching kids who are interested in engineering. So while you're working as an engineer, you're also teaching outside of your workday kids.
And I think, you know, it's a little bit prevalent in the last year or two where people have seen the reports that whether it's a water crisis in Flint or it's a subway that is outdated and now it's being shut down all weekend in New York, that is a huge impact to the consumer. I think the infrastructure is calling attention to engineering. It's predominantly in the last 5 years been focused on, I think, computers and the internet and apps.
Right,
You know,
right.
but now we're seeing a little bit more focus on infrastructure, and I think people will be a little bit more aware of how important it is to everyday life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about your job, your work, and your career in engineering, and how did you narrow it down in terms of the specialty that you're working in now?
So there's all types of engineering, and I have a little bit of a unique background that I did not go to college right away. I was in a small town, didn't know what I wanted to do, took a couple years off and worked a lot of low-wage jobs and figured out, boy, it's not very fun working 3 jobs and you still can't pay the rent. So I thought, you know, I really love math. You know, I want to go to college, and I looked at what my mom and dad did. You know, so that was my point of reference. I was good at math, so people suggested accounting. Didn't know any accountants, didn't sound exciting to me. My mother's a nurse, so I considered nursing. I was good in math. Don't like blood, so that wasn't a good option. My dad is in construction. They have a little construction company, and I worked in construction during the summers. It wasn't glamorous, but I thought, you know what, I know math, so if I could be an engineer, you know, I could make a living, plus you get to be outside, you get a lot, every day we're doing something different, it's complicated, it's fun. So that's why I chose, when I went into college, I chose civil engineering. So that's my background. You have a bachelor's degree. And then when you graduate from college as an engineer, you have an option. There is a professional certification, a professional engineer. So a lot of even college students don't realize that, okay, 4 years is never the end of your training.
That's true.
So in the engineering world, it doesn't matter if you're an electrical, a mechanical, a civil, structural, you have the opportunity to work for another 4 years under the guidance of an engineer and take a test, a couple different tests. And that's how you earn your professional engineering license. What that license will allow you to do is obviously own your own business, but it also, more importantly, allows you to sign and seal drawings. So it doesn't matter what you want to build or design, you're then able to really sign and seal a set of drawings, which is, I think, the pinnacle of advancing in engineering.
It certainly makes good sense to me. Now, you mentioned some of the factors that you considered in making a decision to move into engineering. Are there any additional ones that you didn't really, or any that you want to elaborate on further?
I was the type that I liked a little bit of everything. I liked art, I liked math, I liked science. So I kind of had to try a lot more things than maybe the typical person. I also, you know, didn't have the money to go to college, so working in engineering during the summer, and usually you're labor.
Right.
It's not glamorous, but you can work for construction companies, the government, consultants as an intern, and that's how I paid my way through college too. So that also helped me, because I actually got to see in calculus, I'm doing all these calculations going, what am I doing all this for? And then I actually get to work and they're like, calculate deflection. How much is that beam gonna deflect? I could make the connection, and that's when I really started to get excited and say, I know I wanna do this for a living. This is definitely, so for me, working different jobs through college also helps solidify, hey, I'm doing the right thing, I'm on the right track.
So that's awesome.
While I did that, I don't recommend it though. You know, it's very hard to get scholarships and financial aid the way that I did it. And looking back on it, you know, I firmly believe that almost anybody who thinks that they want to do anything technical should at least attempt college, even while they're working maybe.
Sure.
Because you get to speak to professors and guidance counselors in a college setting who know so much more than the people that, you know, were at your minimum wage job. They're introducing you to options and opportunities that you're not going to know about if you're not in that environment. So that was very important for me, because really the first 2 years of college, The math and science that I took, doctors were taking it, pharmacists, we were all in the same classes.
Right.
So I could have ended up being a doctor or a pharmacist or anything technical. You're all taking the same class. So that's something that I learned. I didn't need to know that day when I signed up for college that I wanted to be an engineer, but I did need to know that I wanted to do something with math and science, and I did have very high scores from the SAT and ACT that enabled me to go into an honors program. So that, you know, that backs into being like a freshman in high school. So you do kind of, if you're going to go anything math and science, you definitely need to start in high school.
Yeah.
But you don't have to make that decision the first day in college. Just get in there, and then you can talk to a lot of people to figure it out.
And I'm a strong advocate of helping young people make a decision about what are you going to major in before they start school, so they can choose a school at a price point that makes sense for them, so they're not coming out of college with massive debt. So that's the, we won't go that direction.
No, but it did factor in. So I had moved to Baltimore, Maryland. And was 20, and there was no way, even as a resident, I could not afford to go to the University of Maryland or the community college. So it is a huge consideration. I had to, you know, figure out where could I get residency and where was a 4-year degree. Huge consideration, because there are lots of options nowadays with dual enrollment.
Certainly.
You know, when you can go to high school and take some college classes, there are so many options now that I don't think were really available in 1980, you know, whatever.
That's right. That's right.
You know, there really are. So that's the world that we're moving into, and the world that I want to support. You know, I worked with all types of trades, whether it was a welder or an electrician or a plumber. They were all important in what I was building.
Right.
They may not have been engineers. So maybe they did 2 years at a trade school. They're running their own company.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't need 4 years there. There's so many other options.
Yeah. Let's take a closer examination of your career, just to help to guide some viewers who may be considering engineering. So tell us a little bit more about your career and the journey it's taken.
So my specific journey, again, is totally driven by the fact that at that time I was not married, I didn't have kids, and I loved to travel. I really liked to work outside. I liked fast-paced things, and I enjoy working. I wasn't the type who said, you know, I'm a 9-to-5er. I just want to go to an office, sit in an office. So I really gravitated toward the jobs where we were building big bridges, big power plants, big telecom. I looked for jobs like that. So that was what drove my decision. So I worked for a contractor, an engineering firm, and I did work for the government, and did a little bit of kind of everything related to civil engineering first, so roads and bridges, but I also got into telecom. You know, so at the end of the telecom, I had a lot of people that I met at the beginning of my career going, this is really hot right now. You need to come to Colorado. So I pack up my stuff and I move, you know. So I was very driven in the sense that I was focused on my career and knew that I wanted to experience large building projects at a very young age, and was able to do that. And then that segued into the last kind of...
Before you go there, tell me, how did that help you, now that with the hindsight that you have now? How did that foundational, you know, job really help you, and how did you build on it?
It helped me in the sense that I was excited and invigorated. I wanted to go to work and I wanted to learn. So, you know, just taking 4 years of college wasn't the end of my learning. I got to go to work, and I was able to work with a lot of different types of people, where they were environmentalists or drainage engineers or publications or marketing. Engineering, you know, you're not just one person sitting in an office. You have to be able to communicate with all different types of companies. You're going to market the project you're going to work on. There's so many different facets, and I was just fascinated every day wanting to come to work, and I think it kept me invigorated about wanting to do the next bigger and better thing, wanting to meet people. That was what drove me. You know, it just depends on what you like to do.
Yeah, so it sounds like really there's a couple things I'm hearing that I think that were pros for you in this situation, is that you really that need to learn, that need for challenge, those things were met. You know, you discovered that you not only needed to, but you probably enjoyed working with a cross-functional team.
And it's very fast-paced, and for the most of us, we need to be very adaptable to change and very willing to accept that our idea may not be the best design.
Right.
You know, there's not just one design that's going to work.
Right.
There's so many factors. So I think that's a little bit different type of skill that, you know, maybe the technical side of college isn't you know, focused on that side. My professor in college always said, the technical stuff is going to be the easiest thing you have to do in your career. The hardest part is the soft skills. I did not comprehend what that meant.
Right,
As you're
right.
struggling through steel calculations, nothing can seem harder. Communication, team building, you know, making that consensus that, okay, my design wasn't the best, okay, we'll use yours, and we'll use this, and we'll piece it together. You know, that is a different skill set.
Yeah, yeah. And that definitely comes with maturity in a position.
And experience.
And experience. So what kind of additional education and training is really necessary to help a person fully realize their potential in an engineering
Right. So I would take the approach that if you're an engineer, you're probably thinking, okay, 4 years gets me a job. That's a pretty good mindset. Let's go with that. You're going to get that job. Believe it or not, I would say after about the first year, if you don't find some facet, whether it's networking with professional organizations, or you're going to do continuing education, or you're going to start your master's degree, you're going to want something else to balance. You know, you've got that work thing, but then you're going to want that connection, whether it's with organizations or yourself pursuing a master's. As an engineer with a license, we need to take 18 credits every 2 years anyway. So
to maintain that currency.
Correct. So there's already, if you are going to become a professional engineer, you must do continuing education.
Yeah.
Regardless, I think no matter what profession you're in, everybody likes to feel like they're the specialist. You know, and people are coming to you, you know, they consider you as the authority.
Right.
So I don't care who you are, I really recommend some type of continuing education at night or on the weekend, or join that professional organization, and then you'll at least have a mentor there who's giving you an idea. Hey, yeah, you're working on this project, but did you know 2 years from now, this big Walt Disney theme park or Universal's building Harry Potter, that's where you're going to find out, and that's going to, you know, it'll be like the next step. You need to continue to have goals in that next step to keep you excited about what you're doing.
Absolutely. You know, I want to go step back just a little bit. One of the things that, a question that came to my mind is, what advice would you recommend to a young person who's coming right at us, well, before they get out of college, to gain some practical experience?
My personal experience, I benefited greatly from working before college and during college in a job related to what I thought I was going to be doing. You know, my roommate from college was engineering up till the third year. She passed all the hard classes and said, you know what, I don't really think I like this. I'm going to go into merchandising. So it involves some chemical engineering, but she wasn't a chemical engineer. She went into textiles and merchandising, you know, because she did a summer internship, and she's like, I don't like this. So it's never too late to change, and it was easy for her because she had the basis. But yeah, exposure, you know, keep exposing yourself to things so you're not limited.
I love the fact that you know, you're saying get that practical experience. You know, is there somebody that you could mentor or shadow, or what about the internship? You know, so you get some practical experience, but you get an opportunity not only to apply what you're learning in the classroom, as you've just talked about, but you also get that opportunity to really discover, is this truly a good fit for me? Yeah, that's huge. We see people in a lot of occupations that come out and going,
this wasn't what I thought it was. And I have, I've been very fortunate that the companies that I have worked for all had training programs. So even as a new engineer, you know, they still did internal training. You
Right.
shadowed people during work, or you did specific jobs for 3 months. It was a very structured program. And I am a big supporter of businesses that have paid internships.
Yeah.
And that's one of the
Right.
reasons I sought out my community college and, you know, I'm actively engaged in their, you know, hey, do we need welding courses? Do we need telecommunication courses, civil courses, structural courses? Really supporting the community college level too. So
Yeah.
that's and businesses, just, you know, businesses who are engaged in paid internships.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So just that lifelong learning, I think, just needs to be a common thread of advice for
Right.
everyone throughout their career. But I think especially in engineering, the market has not always been kind to engineers.
I think you really need to be adaptable and like to learn and like to work.
Yeah.
So those three, you know, I really have to say, hey, if you think you want to do that, be very adaptable, you know, be a learner.
Right.
You're not going to get out of college
Right.
and be done and then, you know, not have to continue that. You know, I'm now going back for my master's in engineering, so
That's
it
great.
never ends. It's, you know, you just see another opportunity and just don't ever think that you end learning.
Well, that's why we want people to be in a profession that they really love, right? That they're very
Right.
passionate about, because
Right.
you're probably looking forward to some of what you're learning in
Right.
in those college classes, right?
I am.
You know,
As my husband calls me, I am a geek. I admit it.
when's the PhD coming?
Right. It's a little. There's a little geek in me, but you know, I still really enjoy, you know, blowing up a bridge, the big stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care who you are. You're fascinated when somebody blows up a building, or
Right.
you know, when we open a bridge and you get to see, or when we open up a new resort with a water park and you're flying down the flume.
Wow.
You know, people are amazed by big things. It's
They
just
are.
human nature.
That's
so it's
right.
pretty cool.
It is. Well, it's
Yeah.
cool that you're on the inside designing and
Yeah.
you know, being part of some of
Yeah.
these fascinating creations. So, what kind of personal attributes? You mentioned a few skill sets that were important. Are there personal attributes that, for that person that might be listening and saying, "Wow, this sounds kind of cool. This is kind of interesting. I think I'd be fascinated in this, or I think this would be a good fit for me." Are there particular personal attributes that might help a person be more successful?
You definitely need to be tenacious about solving a problem. You know, so if you're the type of person who wants to come to work, okay, 9 a.m. in the morning, and by 5 p.m. you're done, that's off my plate tomorrow. No, your engineers are more like, we're going to design it and then come back the next day and go, oh, wait, I can do that better. You know, so you want to be very tenacious and very focused. I would definitely say be adaptable to change and be accepting of a little bit of failure.
Sure.
You know, and failure isn't, no one likes to fail, but in our business, I think, you know, we want to tell people, you know what, the first time you do this, you're probably not going to design it right, and you're going to have it checked by somebody else, and that's okay, and don't be defeated.
Sure.
So you have to be pretty resilient, pretty tenacious, and pretty focused. And you open yourself up. You know, I'm the type of person, I'm a planner and goal-oriented. You know, I know the job's going to, you know.
Yes.
But I went through that transition a couple years ago. You know, I'd been married. I was always traveling. I needed to live in Orlando, got on a plane, flew to a job, flew home on the weekend for years. You know, and at some point, it was that balanced family decision.
Yeah.
You know, so yes, then you need to go, oh, wait a minute. Well, if I decide to get off the plane and then move to where my, you know, where my family is, and it's not, you know, I will say the last 2 years was not in my, you know, my thinking of where my career was headed. But you do need to be diversified and use your connections and then be open to something that may not be what you've done consistently, but at least you have the skills.
Well, let's take the last minute or so here and just share with me, because you mentioned networking and connections, what role has networking really played throughout your career?
Networking, if I could say one thing to engineers in order to make your job easier, network. because there are so many facets of our business that are so technical and that change so quick. If you try to specialize in every one of those yourself, there's no way you can do it. And when you network and you meet different people in your field who specialize in different things, it is such a benefit to be able to pick up the phone and go, hey, I have this job, we have this problem, I've never seen this happen before, this is what I think, but hey, you called the person who specializes in it, in a matter of minutes, they're saying, oh yeah, dealt with that, this is how. It helps you to problem solve, it helps you learn at a much faster pace, and it helps you make decisions. No matter what business you're in, making decisions correctly with accurate information is important. So the more networking you've done, you have such a freedom to pick up the phone and say, hey, I have this problem. Because you know what? Those other people remember what your profession is and what your specialty is, and you're going to do them a favor. They're going to pick up the phone and go, hey, I have this thing, that, can you come out and look at this? I don't know. You're just trading favors. It just opens up a whole nother level of competency, and people see that you're connected, and then they call you, hey, you don't know the answer, but I can find someone who does.
Well, that's going to have to be the last word on our topic of engineering today. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you.
On behalf of everyone here on the set and my guest, thank you for watching, and remember, be career happy.
More information about this program is available online at millermediagroup.org.